What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do a side-by-side comparison with the Mega 360 and the LiveScope perspective mode. So in order to compare the two, we're going to break down 6 different components and basically show you guys the difference between the two, and we'll let you guys draw your conclusion at the end of which one you think is best. Obviously, they're both great technology. It's just a matter of which one works better for you and which situation you're using it. Some of the things we're going to cover today are the range, the coverage, the depth comparison, and also we will talk about durability and the refresh rate on these units. So starting with coverage, it's pretty much in the name for the 360. Obviously, it covers completely around the boat. So it's 360 degrees of coverage, which is nice because if you're, for example, being blown in by the wind and you got your motor on spot lock, your trolling motor on spot lock, you could see behind you if that's what you're trying to fish. So if you're back here and you're fishing that log back there or whatever, you can actually see the stuff on the 360, whereas perspective is directional. So it's actually got a 20-degree up and down like this, and then it'll have 135 degrees of coverage side to side. And so basically, depending on which way your trolling motor is facing, that is the direction that transducer will be pointing. And there's some guys that'll put it on like a crappie pole that'll hang off the side of the boat, or you could put it on like a turret and just basically keep it faced forward all the time, or control it so that you could deal with that spot lock issue. 360 covers the entire length around you, and the perspective is directional based on which direction that transducer is pointing. So basically it only covers 135 degrees versus 360. So the next thing we'll talk about is the refresh rate. The way Mega 360 works is it has a puck that basically rotates constantly while it's in the water. There's a sensor in there, and once it hits the water, it will start rotating. So you'll actually see a line on a graph. It kind of works like radar a little bit, where it'll constantly be refreshing as it goes around. And you could change the speed. There's actually 6 different speeds that you could change it to, 1 through 6. And obviously the best picture that you're going to get is going to be with the slowest speed, but you can crank it up if you're moving a lot or something like that. Another thing you can do on the Mega 360 is you can isolate the sweep. So for example, if you want that radar spinning portion to only read a certain angle of it. So for example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate that sweep to 135 degrees, and then I'm going to time how long it takes for that to refresh it at speed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 through 6. And we're going to compare that to the live. Obviously the live is live, but it'll give you an idea of how long it'll take to refresh that portion of the screen. And I'll also time the different times it takes to do a complete rotation of the 360 circle. So let's go ahead and let's start timing the 360 and see how long it takes to go completely around for that refresh rate. So now we isolated the sweep, and we have it set up to, this is 135 degrees, which is the same cone angle as the perspective. So now we're going to time and see how long it takes for each of the speeds as well. So we're going to start with the speed 1, and you'll notice where this goes, it doesn't actually refresh all of the 360 degrees. It just does that portion. That could save you time so that it doesn't take you as long to refresh your screen. We started it at complete horizontal. We're going to wait until those 2 lines get back to horizontal and stop the timer, and we'll see how long it takes. Some of the older Helixes will have like fine or standard speed or fast speed rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. With perspective, it's live sonar, so it'll show everything as is while it's happening. And you get a lot quicker of a refresh rate with that perspective versus the 360. One cool thing with perspective mode is you can actually see these balls of bait actually swimming away. You can see this right here is a ball of bait, and I'm going towards it, but a lot of times you'll be able to see the actual fish in there. And this Mega 360 is getting ready to update, so you'll see there's the bait there, and there's the bait there on the perspective. And then the second ball of bait is starting to show up on that. A lot of times you'll see actual fish in that, with the perspective, whereas the Mega, they'll just show up as dots, and that's fine, but as it's refreshing, it'll take longer and you can't actually see where the fish will be swimming. See, I know there's some times where I'm waiting for it to refresh on my 360 in order to show a log and where it's located or whatever, versus the live, obviously it's a lot more live. It's what's happening in the moment. So obviously the perspective mode gets the nod on this one for refresh rate because it's obviously live versus constantly refreshing. So as far as clarity, Mega 360 is going to have a clearer picture. So the Mega 360 will basically be a picture on your screen. It'll be a lot clearer than, say, the perspective, but it's kind of a little bit different, and it's hard to compare them because perspective is essentially a video that you're watching, whereas 360 is a picture on the screen. So if you watch a video and you pause a video like midway through, it's going to be a little bit blurry, whereas a picture is already got that resolution and it's going to be a little bit clearer whenever you're looking at that. So that's one thing, is your 360 is probably going to show up the logs and stumps and any type of structure or cover that you're looking at a little bit better, and you're going to have more of a crisp picture. But like I said earlier, you're going to have that refresh rate turned way down to get as best a picture as possible. So now let's talk about depth comparison. What we're going to do is we're going to go to different depths. We'll go 5 feet, 10 feet, 15, 20, and so on. And we're basically going to see when we lose good quality bottom composition on both of the units. I kind of want to see, like, if we get to 20 feet, will this perspective mode just kind of slowly not be as good, or which one will show better like structure and cover in deeper water versus the other. And I have a feeling one of them is going to be better than the other, but I really don't know for sure. So it's be something fun to try. So now we're here in 5 or 6 feet. And what I want to do is I want to compare the picture in different depths. So this is the, I let my Mega 360 refresh, and what you'll see is there's like a log jam over here and a log jam over here. And both of them have pretty good pictures. You can see a stump here. You can see that same stump there. You can see the log jam, and you can see a few little dots at the back, and those are fish. Whereas on the actual perspective, you can see some of those actually moving around. So sometimes you'll see dots and you don't know whether it's rock on the 360 or whether it's fish, whereas perspective in live mode you can actually see those fish swimming around. But that's basically what these will look like at about 5 or 6 feet. I'm going to try and do it at 5 feet increments as we go out of here, and we'll see if the picture changes based on the depth. So now we're at 10 feet and you'll see both pictures still look really good. Honestly, I don't really notice a difference in 10 feet versus 5 feet. It's actually probably a little clearer than it was in 5 feet. I think the perspective is better in a little bit shallower water. The 360 now will pick up better as we get a little bit deeper. So we'll go out to 15 feet and see what it looks like out there. So now we're out here at 15 feet and there's this one log we're gonna check out. And as you can see on the perspective, it shows up pretty clear. And the 360 is refreshing right now. But it also was showing up pretty clear, and you can see the shadow behind both of them, and there's like a little fork in the tree as well. But both of them show up pretty clear. They're starting to lose a little bit of clarity, but we're going to head out to 20 feet and see what it looks like out there. So we're out here at 22 feet, and you'll notice that the bottom on the perspective mode is starting to get pretty dark. There's one little rock vein here that still shows up pretty good, but we're starting to lose a little bit of that on the perspective, whereas the 360 has still got a really good picture in my opinion, and it's showing that rock, or that hard spot. It's not really rock, but that harder little hard stretch there, it shows it a lot better than the perspective. And now we're creeping out towards the 25 feet, and you'll see there's a lot of black here where the perspective does its little stitching portion of it. The 360 just shows a complete picture of everything, and it doesn't have that stitching portion of where the different parts of the transducer connect. In my opinion, once you get out past 20-25 feet, this 360 really just shows up a lot better than the perspective mount. So as far as range, I like to set my units on 100 feet. And the reason I do this is because I have my live scope forward mount set on 100 feet, And I want to be able to, if I see a stump out at 100 feet, I want to be able to pan over and see that on the on my forward mode, so that I can make a cast to it or see if there's a fish to it on it or whatever I need to do. For this comparison, I'm going to do different ranges, and I want to see the differences and clarity. We'll just kind of play with some of the different ranges and see what gives us the best picture on each unit. So now we're going to talk range, and we're going to find a log, and we're going to look at that log from 100 feet and then 75 feet, 50 feet, and 25 feet, and see if the picture gets clearer as we get closer to that object. First, we're going to look at the perspective mode. The log that we're going to look at is coming into picture right now. So there's the log that we're going to look at. And as you can see, it looks pretty clear out to 100 feet. We'll see if it gets any clearer as we get closer to it. 75 feet is definitely starting to pop a little bit more. So as we get closer, the picture is going to get a little clearer, it looks like, which makes a lot of sense because as you get closer, the live scope will look a lot clearer too. So we're at about 60 feet now and pushing 50. You're really starting to see that shadow a little bit better. And there's no fish on it right now, I don't think, unless there's one on the back side of it. There's one on the back side that just swam out from that stump. And I'm not sure if we just now saw it because we got closer or if it just swam out from behind the stump, but definitely looks a lot clearer. And now as we get even closer, it's kind of getting blurrier again. So it seems like that 50 feet is the optimal range. So now we're getting into 30 feet and I can barely see the stump anymore. So 50 to 75 feet seems to be the best picture for the perspective mode. So now let's do the 360 portion of it. That log is right there at about 100 feet. It looks a little bit blurry at 100 feet. You can still clearly see the log. It's just a little bit blurry. So now we're coming in on 75 feet on this log. That log looks a lot clearer than it did before. It's still a little bit pixelated, maybe because I was moving the boat, but that log looks a lot clearer. You could see the shadow behind it. You could see some of the branches on it, but it looks a little bit clearer at 75 feet. So now we moved into 50 feet on this log. You can see at 50 feet, this log looks a lot clearer than it did at 100 feet, obviously, and also at 75 feet. So as you get closer, this 360 so far has been looking a little bit clearer. So now we're approaching this log at 25 feet. That log is right there. And honestly, that looks a lot clearer than the perspective did because we kind of lost the log on the perspective, but the 360 still shows up really clear. It's actually a pretty good picture. So it seems like 25 to 50 feet seems to be the best picture for the Mega 360. The perspective is probably 50 to 75 feet. And as you get closer to the boat on the perspective, you seem to kind of lose that object. Whereas the 360, you keep that object and you know exactly where it's at the closer you get to the boat. So let's talk about durability. And this is honestly an opinion because obviously I'm not going to take these things and ram them into a stump on purpose and see which one lasts the longest because they're too expensive. And I just don't want to do that and just break things just to break things. But in my opinion, the 360 is a little bit more durable. It's on that rod that when you hit something, it'll flex a little bit. And the perspective mount, in my opinion, I think if you hit something, it's not gonna flex as much. And I have a bad feeling that if I hit something too hard, it's gonna break. So the perspective mount definitely makes me a little bit more nervous around stumps and stuff like that. And I'm afraid to hit it against anything and possibly break it. Whereas the 360, I know I've hit a few stumps that it just kind of, it'll flex a little bit and then go back to normal. So as long as you don't hit them too hard, I think the 360 is just a little bit more durable in the way I mount it. But obviously there's different mounts for each of those. Some may be better than others, but I think the 360 is just a little bit more durable than the perspective. That basically shows you guys a comparison of Mega 360 and LiveScope and when I use each. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit along the way. Hopefully you guys picked up a few tips. Be sure to like and subscribe and we'll see you guys next time.